Seabridge Gold's resource base of gold, copper, and silver is one of the world's largest. In 2024, Seabridge Gold's KSM project in Northwest B.C. was granted substantially started designation. The company said it has spent $444 million on early site construction activities to lock in permits for the life of the project. Rudi Fronk is CEO. Rudi, welcome to Mining Stock Daily.
Great to be with you, Michael. Thank you.
Now, Rudi, I need to start with the Friday news from the BC Mines Ministry. You said that the ministry decided to delay permit amendments for the construction and operation of the Mitchell Treaty tunnels, which would be needed to be built to transport ore from the mine to the processing facility. Your neighbor Tudor Gold is concerned about the location of the tunnel. There has been legal proceedings between both companies. Talk about the decision by the ministry and how that impacts the resolution between you and Tudor.
Yeah, great question. Obviously, that's the topic of the moment right now. You know, we have applied for our M245 amendment some time ago and moved that along the process. I think what has to be understood here is we already have a number of authorizations for our tunnel. We have a license of occupation that was granted initially in 2014 and then re-granted in 2024 for another 20 years. Tudor is challenging that decision. We also have a mineral reserve from the government, from the BC Ministry of Mines. Tudor is challenging that decision from the Ministry of Mines. And also we have a M245 permit, which gives us authorizations to build the tunnel portals, the tunnel and the first 100 meters of tunnel from each of the portals to the first crosscut. What we were looking to get in this amendment was the ability to build the entire construction length. And obviously Tudor is against that. Tudor has challenged these authorizations directly to the government for years and have never gotten the resolution they were looking for, which was the government saying that they're no longer valid. The government has continuously come back and told us that our permit and authorizations are valid and in good standing. So Tudor took the next step through a legal process. We understand the hesitation by the government wanting to get these things resolved. And so the decision on the M245 amendment is now delayed until we make progress in terms of the proceedings that are in the court.
So then at this point, then it is kicked to legal proceedings at this point right now in terms of actually kind of to some type of resolution, Rudi?
Well, we've always been open to the idea of trying to find a resolution with Tudor on the tunnel issues. Obviously, the issues are theirs. They have found mineralization on their property where tunnels will cut through. And we've told Tudor again and again for years, if and when you have an approved mine plan that's permitted, we can sit down with you and try and find a way to flex a portion of the tunnels to avoid your mine plans. Now, understand that they've been working on their project for 10 years. They've yet to put forward a mine plan. They've yet to put forward a PEA. And they're asking us to move our tunnels. Where would we move them to until we know how our tunnels might impact their mine plan? Again, we are more than willing to sit down with them to try and find a resolution. But at this point in time, it makes no sense until they actually show us something where we might have to move the tunnels.
You mentioned the decisions that have gone in your favor in the past, Rudi, and kind of the weight of the work that you've done to date. I'm still trying to understand, though, what this decision actually means right now. Also, was it a bit of surprise? You do make a reference to a decision maker in the news release.
Yeah, look, we've been working on this amendment now for a couple of years. We have the support of the Indigenous people for this amendment, and we've advanced it down the approval process line. Were we expecting a decision on this? Yes. The delay is unfortunate, but I understand the delay that the government is asking for, and we're going to do our best to get this resolved so the government can grant us the permits that we requested.
You published a new mineral resource estimate last month, Rudi. You wrote that the mineral resource model has not changed, only the assumed metal prices and costs used to constrain the mineral resources and to calculate grade cutoff. Why did you publish the MRE?
Well, number one, we had to catch up with what other tier one companies are doing in terms of their resource disclosure. Understand that we've been very clear for a number of years that we will require a partner to advance this project to a construction and production decision. When you look at our resource estimates that were out there compared to other tier one companies that might be suitable partners, our metal prices were way too low relative to what these companies were using. So we're getting more in line in terms of what partner type companies would be using for metal prices. I mean, up to this point in time, we were using a $1,300 gold price to quantify mineral resources at KSM. And most of the tier one companies now are using $2,000 or higher. So it was time to actually catch up on that. We have not done that for a long, long time. For I believe it was 10 years. And now we've caught up, which obviously at a higher gold price, more material becomes economic that was excluded from resource definitions and previous calculations.
What is next in terms of the studies that are going to be needed for advancing, as a feasibility study, final investment decision?
Yeah, so that's the big push now. We are getting ready to kickstart our bankable feasibility study. As we've mentioned, we've now moved our partnership discussions down to one single company, who we're calling our preferred company. We are working with them to make sure that when we press the button for the bankable feasibility study, we're aligned in terms of what goes into the study, what comes out on the back end. So that's the next logical step for the project. In the meantime, we continue to advance the project through early site construction activities. This year, our plan is to continue road construction from Highway 37 along the Treaty Creek Access Road up to where the tunnel portals will be located and also where the mill site will be located. So we have a big program plan this year above and beyond the feasibility.
Regarding narrowing in on that one party, what are your top de-risking priorities, Rudi?
Well, we're looking for a partner that, number one, has the technical capabilities to build a line the scale of KSM. I mean, let's face it, a project that's going to have the size that we have, we need one of the big world-class mining companies. We also need a company that has the financial flexibility to do this. This is a project that upfront capital is large. The estimate we did in 2022 pre-feasibility study was US $6.4 billion. It's likely that the capital cost has gone up since that time. Fortunately, metal prices have gone up even more than perhaps what capital might be. And then we're also looking for a partner that checks the boxes in terms of the social aspects of the project. We've made tremendous associations and partnerships with the Tahltan Nation, the Niska Nation, and the Gitxsan Nation. We want to make sure that our partner steps in and fulfills the obligations that we have with our First Nation partners. And then last but not least, we're looking for a partner that's willing to move this project forward in a meaningful timeline to get to a production decision as quick as possible. We're also looking for a partner that will fund a disproportionate amount of the financing. Our goal is to keep a meaningful interest in the project while minimizing our capital exposure for the project.
Metal prices have moved, gold has moved, also copper has moved significantly as well. Is this more of interest in terms of copper, or is it more interest in terms of gold? And also, does that kind of change the people that might be looking at it?
Well, we have 5 deposits there. 3 of the deposits are more gold focused. 2 of the deposits are more copper focused. This project has tremendous optionality in how you may choose to develop this, whether you go after the copper dominated deposits first or the gold dominated deposits. We're fortunate that when you look at the aggregate of mineral resources at KSM, if you just look at our gold, it is the largest undeveloped gold project in the world by far. If you ignore our gold and look at our copper, it's the second largest undeveloped copper project in the world. So this project actually speaks to both gold companies and copper companies. And obviously, as you would expect, our dialogue in the joint venture process has been with both gold-focused companies and copper-based companies.
How is your cash position, Rudi? You are doing the work in terms of substantially started and all of that, and then you're still marching towards a JV. Are you going to be able to get there without a capital raise?
Yeah, we are. We ended the year with about $125 million in our treasury. In Q1, as recently announced in our year-end financial statements, we raised another bunch of cash from our ETM financing structure in place. I think as of today, as the end of March, we still have $125 million cash in the treasury. So we're in a real strong cash position here. We've always been able to fund ourselves with the support of our larger shareholders year in and year out, and at the same time, keeping our share count low. One of our guiding principles from day one is to try and grow ounces in the ground faster than shares outstanding. When I look at the industry, one of my big concerns as an investor is the risk of equity dilution. And boy, do companies increase their share count very quickly without offsetting that dilution with value. We focus on ounces per share. We will raise money if we have a good use of proceeds that can grow ounces per share. And for 25 plus years now, we've been able to do that.
I noticed a thing that you put on social that it's pretty good to be a electrified mine these days.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, green energy is critical. KSM has been deemed a critical metals project by both Canada and British Columbia in the best interest of Canadians and residents of British Columbia. And being able to furnish the power for KSM from hydro sources is a big plus. In fact, now we've invested over $160 million Canadian with BC Hydro, and they are now completing the switching station that will allow us to take hydropower off the Northwest transmission line right to the front door of KSM.
Also with the spike in diesel prices as well too, might be looking at changing the economics of what's actually happening with the miners. Now, it's just bits and pieces, Rudi, the Courageous Lake spin out, that's still planned for June?
Yeah, we will be having our shareholders meeting for Seabridge on May 22nd to get approval from our shareholders for that spin out. And then sometime in June, we would expect to be able to deliver the shares of Valor Gold directly into the hands of our Seabridge shareholders.
British Columbia right now is navigating obligations under the Declaration of Rights and Indigenous Peoples Act. There has been, how would you say, there's been a little bit of tumult regarding that as the provinces navigates that. Is any of that trickling down to impact upon your operations or the resource sector?
No, it hasn't. We've been very upfront with our Indigenous partners at KSM. We're dealing with 5 of them, the Tahltan, the Niska, and the Gitxsan, all 3 of which support the project. In fact, we have impact benefit agreements in place with the Tahltan, the Niska Nation already. And there's 2 others, the Tsawatskikamaha and the Gitnyao. The Tsawatskikamaha did come in and challenge or substantially start a designation with a judicial review. We had that court case last fall, and expect to have the decision here shortly on that. And the Gitnyao they're more of a downstream type thing. We deal with them in terms of environmental studies that we jointly fund year in and year out. So I think we've done a good job in terms of making sure that our Indigenous partners that are impacted by the project have a say and a seat at the table during consultation and looking at the project.
Lastly, Rudi, milestones over the next 12 months.
Partnership agreement. I mean, no question about that. Getting a partner named with the terms that we expect to be able to deliver, I think will be a major re-rating of our company in terms of the marketplace. We announced last year that we had success at our Iskut property drilling a new zone called Snip North. We will shortly be announcing the maiden resource estimate for Snip North. And then, of course, the spin out of Courageous Lake is something that I think will be well received by our shareholders in terms of a project that right now that is likely not generating any value in the Seabridge share price, but in a separate company on its own with its own management team in place, will finally get out of the shadow of KSM and hopefully deliver real value to our Seabridge shareholders in terms of that spin out.
Rudi Fronk, thanks for speaking with Mining Stock Daily.
My pleasure, Michael. Thank you.
The information presented should not be considered investment advice. Mining Stock Daily and its affiliates are not responsible for any loss arising from any investment decision in connection with the material presented herein. Please do your own research or speak with a licensed financial representative before making any investment decisions.